I am a domestic worker and this is my story. But it's not just my story. It's the story of domestic workers from all over the world. By sharing my experience with you, I hope that we can improve the lives of domestic workers. Because we all have choices and together we can make Hong Kong a better place to work. Imagine what life would be like in Hong Kong without us. Though we may all come from different countries and at times feel like we're on our own, there are about 400,000 of us in Hong Kong experiencing a similar reality. I got interested in the idea of going to Hong Kong from my neighbor who had worked there and knew someone at an employment agency. She told me that domestic workers could earn a minimum wage of 4,520 Hong Kong dollars per month. So, I thought it would be a great way to provide for my family. The agency helped me gather the necessary documents and make an introduction video for potential employers so that they could get to know me better. I'll admit I didn't understand everything about the process, but they said it was best to trust them, so I did. I regret that I didn't take more time to fully understand everything I signed.
The agency should clearly explain the entire process to employers and workers. Workers should read a translated copy of the standardized employment contract and make sure the Schedule of Duties section is filled in before signing. Both employers and workers are bound to this contract, and workers can refuse to do any tasks not specified there.
After signing the paperwork, I went for a medical checkup and I had to attend a mandatory training. The training lasted for several weeks, where they taught me how to cook and clean to suit the preferences of my employer. When the training was over and I was preparing to leave, I was surprised by how much I had to pay for the training. There were so many unanticipated costs. For example, I had to pay for some of the tests I needed for my health checkup.
Costs for securing employment and travelling to Hong Kong can range depending on the worker's country of origin. According to Hong Kong law, placement fees cannot be more than 10% of your first month's salary. If you earn minimum wage, that amounts to 410 Hong Kong dollars. If a worker thinks they have been overcharged, national consulates or their employers can help them report the agency.
After the training, I got my passport, said goodbye to my family, and flew to Hong Kong. When I landed, everything was different. The skyscrapers, the language, but I felt safe. At the airport, some volunteers gave me pamphlets about human trafficking and Hong Kong labor rights and protections. The agency took them from me, as well as my passport, as soon as I cleared immigration.
A passport is key to staying and exiting the country, and it should never be taken away, either by the employer or the agency.
When I met my employer for the first time, they seemed friendly. But I quickly realized that my training did little to prepare me for my employer's expectations. And I had way less privacy than what the contract had specified. I didn't even have my own room. I slept on a bunk bed in the children's room and there were security cameras everywhere in the apartment. I also wasn't getting enough decent food, just the leftovers. Not having proper food made me feel weak and tired. And on top of that, my employer invited her family over a lot. So, I would end up cooking and cleaning for more people than we agreed on in the contract.
The space and duties should match what is specified in the contract, and workers should have 3 full and nutritious meals a day, or a sufficient food allowance to buy food for themselves. Workers should keep a daily log of their duties, note the date, and record how many hours they work every day, and how much time they are given off, and what food they are given. This will help to provide evidence if employers violate the contract.
Because I share a room with the children, I often had to comfort them at night, which meant I didn't really have time of my own. It was strange spending more time with someone else's children than my own. At times, I wondered if my employer was jealous of the relationship we were developing. And working and living in the same place was harder than I thought. With so little time to myself, day or night, it was hard to know the difference between working hours and personal time. I also felt lonely a lot and I wanted to talk to my family. But by the time the baby was asleep, it was already too late to call my family back home. The security cameras also made me feel really uncomfortable. What if someone was watching me change my clothes or go to the bathroom? I didn't even have a key to the house to leave when I wanted. Where could I go to have full privacy?
If an employer puts limits on these rights, workers should raise the issues respectfully and note their reaction.
Even on Sundays, which were supposed to be my day off, I didn't get a full break. My employer often asked me to make breakfast before I left for the day, or dinner when I came home, or they would leave me a pile of dishes to wash up. So I would just do them when I got home from my day off, so that I wouldn't have to deal with them the next day.
Workers are also entitled to have all statutory holidays off and paid annual leave. If a domestic worker does work on her day off, even for an hour, by law they should get a full alternative rest day.
Usually, things were good between my employer and I. But there were times when she lost her temper and shouted at me. And even a few occasions when she hurt me. I still had 6 months on my contract, so I didn't want to make things complicated by reporting her. I knew I could only change contracts if my employer couldn't pay me, if they passed away, or if I could prove in court that I'd been abused. So I didn't tell anybody and just dealt with the problems on my own.
Domestic workers should feel safe and free from harm while at work. Workers should document incidents of mistreatment carefully, note the date of the incident, take pictures of any physical injuries, and write down or record a voice memo of exactly what happened as soon as possible. Having these details is important when reporting a problem. Even if you don't want to report now, hearing them gives you the option to report in the future.
I just wanted to get through my contract so I could change employers without anything appearing on my record. If I complained, maybe a future employer or agency might think I'm a troublemaker and make it hard for me to find another contract. Besides, even with these problems, the situation was still better than some of the other places I'd worked. Like the Gulf.
If you don't report bad behaviour, then it is likely to continue. Taking action can be hard and time-consuming, so if you don't want to do it now, report it confidentially, for example, to a labour union, in case you change your mind later.
I saw the news stories about workers like Erwiana who were badly beaten by their employers, or Baby Jane who was fired when she got sick. But my situation wasn't as serious as these cases, so I didn't feel that it was worth it to complain to my employer or seek help from an NGO or the consulate.
They should voice their concerns to their employers if they are being mistreated, and refuse to do work that is unsafe or inappropriate, like washing outside windows in a high-rise or giving massages. When a worker speaks up and clearly communicates their concerns, then workers and employers can have a better working relationship.
The job was hard, but the money was good. I came here to work and send money back to my family. But when times were tough back home and I needed a bit of extra money, I got a loan from my employer. That's another reason why I didn't want to have any trouble with them.
When domestic workers borrow money for their employers or a loan shark, it puts a strain on the working relationship. Workers can get financial planning assistance through organisations like Enrich to avoid taking out loans. If workers do take out a loan, the terms should be fair and clear, and they should be sure to have a signed agreement that they have carefully read before signing.
Even though I only had 1 day off a week, I had the most of it, having fun and relaxing with my friends. During these times, we shared our experiences and realized that we are not alone. I became aware of my rights and what my employer can and can't ask of me. As domestic workers, we play important social and economic roles in Hong Kong. If we all stand up together, we can achieve the working conditions we deserve and have better relationships with our employers.
Domestic workers are the backbone of Hong Kong society, and they deserve respect. Their issues affect everyone in the city. Imagine Hong Kong without domestic workers. Take advantage of the resources out there that are designed to help domestic workers and their employers at consulates, unions, or local groups. You can report and seek assistance at your consulate, such as the Filipino Labour Attaché, or the Indonesia Labour Office, the Hong Kong Labour Department or Police, or with NGOs or shelters like FADWU, Bethune House, or the Mission for Migrant Workers.